Hi all, it's Cindy from Cindy's Art. Today I am so excited to paint this coral beach painting with you. I found the reference photo on pexels.com, a great site to find pictures that you can look at and paint, and I always give credit to the artist. So this painting, I started off with a quick sketch, and then I started to paint the background sky, let that dry really well, and then I next painted the water line and let that dry really well. For the sky, I used the color Ultramarine Blue Deep. And then for the waterline, I'm using a lot of Horizon Blue. I love this color. It's one of my favorite watercolors. And then I took it up to the waterline right where the sand is, and I'm adding a touch of yellow ochre in that. I'm gonna let this dry, and then I'm going to go back to the sky. I'm gonna paint a deeper color for the sky, for the water, and then I'm gonna show you how to paint that dark blue horizon line. The color I'm using for this horizon line is indigo. I want it to stand out and really pop and create a contrast. I still am going to go back in and add more ultramarine blue deep into the sky, and then more horizon blue and a little bit of marine blue as well in there. Right now I'm using my gum masking for me to mask up the coral on the bottom and the shells, because I do not want those to get painted on accidentally. Masking fluid is a wonderful tool to use, and you can see right now I've switched right back into creating deeper lines. I add in a second and a third layer on these colors are in this painting because I want to deepen the colors and deepen the, what the water looks like. I did a quick splattering of paint, just a tiny bit. Can you see those little sand dots in there? And to create that, I used Quinacridone Scarlet, and then I used a little bit of permanent yellow orange, a little bit of burnt sienna and raw umber, and I splattered just a little bit. I have less splattering where the line is from the beach, and in the foreground, right where those shells are, I have more. That's because as it gets closer, you're going to see more detail. So I added a little bit of shadow using burnt umber underneath of the wave that you see in that background. And then I'm using a little bit of that same color right here underneath the shell. I'm going to add that in before I start to paint those shells. But right now what I want to do is get the shadow laid in, and then I'm going to start to work on that coral up above. You can see I laid down the shadow of this coral just a little bit to the right. I did that as a reference point. Right now I'm using the color neutral, just neutral, which is almost like a black, and I'm lightly sketching. I'm not using a ton of paint. I like to sketch this out so I can get a good look for it and be ready to lift up a stroke that I make that I don't like. Just go slow, go easy, and keep looking at your reference photo while you're working on this. I'm using a Mincho Micron pen, and this is probably about a 0.5. It's a small pen, and it's ink and it creates wonderful detail. And this helped speed up my process for painting this coral. But the other thing is, I really need this black in this area to really pop out, because it's got to show in front of that water in the back. So I went ahead and used a micron pen, and as the coral develops, I'm going to use a size 1 micron pen to create some of these black dots that you're seeing now. So I'm just going to continue to let this coral develop. Use either your finger, but you can't have any oil on your finger, to remove this masking fluid, or for example, I use a cement eraser. And so I want you to see where we're at with this painting right now. This is what it looks like. I'm just going to show you a couple shots. You can see that water behind there really nicely. I already put enough splash, but not too much detail in that water. I don't need more. And the foreground, you can see these shells, there's nothing on them. Those things are pristine clean, which makes it a lot easier to preserve the white and for me to start painting into this now. I'm building up my basic shadows. I used a little bit of indigo blue, a tiny bit, in order for me to add a little bit of shadow into this shell. So there is a blue tone. There's also some yellow ochre in there, and there's some neutral colors as well. I'll add a little bit of burnt sienna, or raw sienna, yeah, it's raw sienna later, to this as well, just a little bit. So I'm going to work on the details and develop this a little bit further. You can see in these shadows that I'm adding a lot of warmth. When you're painting a picture, usually our cooler tones are towards the back, and as you move to the foreground, you'll wind up with warmer colors. Well, the seashells definitely had the warm colors in it. This yellow ochre and then a little bit of raw sienna was mixed in. So I'm just continuing to develop these shells, and I'm going to add in some of the finer detail with it. Then I'm going to add in some final black lines, not detailing everything out, but just helping to define the shape a little bit. Here's a quick picture of and a close-up of the detail that I'm working at with the shells. I don't need to have every line or have everything perfectly defined in this. Sometimes the light on a shell is the border and shows you or tells you where this shell starts and ends. So I'm just finalizing up these details, and I'm going to give you a quick few snapshots of what this looked like as we finished. I so enjoyed having you guys here today. If you've not subscribed, please hit that button and join my channel. I would love to hear your comments. I would love to see your artwork too. Be sure to look down below in the description on how you can do that. You guys take care, and I'll see you next time.